It's the Josh Thompson Coaches Show, live from Redbone's Grill every Wednesday night. The Josh Thompson Coaches Show is brought to you by Redbone's Grill in Montgomery, where the good times roll. Our title sponsor, Bill Dobson Ford in Washington. Come see why a Dobson deal is a better deal. Now let's join the voice of the Vikings, Mike DeCourcy, and the coach of the Barr-Reeve Vikings, Coach Josh Thompson.
It's just past 7 o'clock, just after the national news, Wednesday night, and that only means one thing here on the General 95.9 and 101.3. It's the Josh Thompson Coaches Show, where we talk Barr-Reeve basketball, the week that was, the week that is. We try to have a little bit of fun along the way as we talk about everything to do with the Barr-Reeve basketball program. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike DeCourcy, joined by the head coach of the Barr-Reeve Vikings, Coach Josh Thompson. Good evening, Coach.
Mike, it's always great to be here. Just enjoyed our little chat there with Cindy, and we're just making some plans for Sunday with some pizza and the sectional draw coming up. So that was great to catch up on things with Cindy. But you said national news, Mike. You know, I'm in the gym 24/7 at this time of the year. Did we shoot any balloons down today?
I don't think we shot any more balloons down, but did you watch the UFO video of the jets scrambling up to shoot?
No.
Nathan Lester suggested at lunch today that I should watch that, and he would say, "You are going to leave confused." Mm-hmm. Boy, was I ever. So I'm going to text you that video tonight. Okay. Where there's some mysterious things in the sky.
So no balloons, and now we've got UFOs.
Yeah, that's right. Nope, it's the Josh Thompson Coaches Show every Wednesday night live at Redbone's, brought to you not only by Redbone's Grill, but also the title sponsor of Barr-Reeve Media and this Coaches Show, and that's Bill Dobson Ford, where a Dobson deal is a better deal.
Absolutely, yeah. Speaking of a Dobson deal, Brent Dobson had the second grade Vikings out and about last weekend over at Washington. He said they played really well. They had a couple kids out of town, but had a nice weekend, and then they're going to be over at Vincennes this weekend. We got several teams headed over that way to continue playing some travel basketball here this winter. Yeah,
lots of good Viking prospects on the way. Got to see it firsthand last weekend, and before we talk about Barr-Reeve and South Knox the other night, we basically had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All in Evansville last weekend, playing in the Evansville North Shootout. So every Barr-Reeve team this weekend played Memorial, Wrights, Evansville North,
Castle,
Mater Dei, Bossy,
yeah,
and then throw in some Henderson County, Kentucky, a little Gibson Southern, a little Heritage Hills. But the Vikings, we were just one of a couple of teams that no matter what, we sent all of our groups down to the Pocket City.
Absolutely, and all of our teams, I thought, talking to our coaches, played extremely well, really competed. Our 8th grade team, they only lost 2 games all year, and they went down there and they went 0-3. And, if you go 0-3, playing Pumpkin Center and teams like that, then that's not really a successful weekend. Nobody likes to go 0-3. But, we lost by 1 to Evansville Central. Those guys lost, I think, by 7 to Boonville. So they ended up playing in the late pay-per-view game against Evansville Wrights, who has one of the top 8th graders
in the country,
not just in the state, but in the country. And he had a dunk on us the first play of the game, had a dunk on us the last play of the game, and Coach Sullivan said it was like a 7-8 point game most of the night. So, you look at that and you say, well, outside of wins and losses, did we get better? It's like you and I talked about a lot on Saturday. We talked about it again on Sunday. I feel like our program got better by going down to Evansville North.
And the one thing I noticed, it's just when the game speeds up, what kids are gonna show up, what kids need work in those situations, and that's nice to see because
you see a lot of zone.
Yeah, you see. Yeah. I mean, our 8th grade, we played, I think, 0 minutes of basketball over the weekend against any man-to-man defense.
Yeah. And, number one, when you have teams playing a lot of games in a weekend, you're going to see a lot of zone from that standpoint. But, when you go to the Pocket City, you see a lot of teams that play zone. Evansville Central there for years.
Yep.
They were the Syracuse 2-3 extended zone. Mike Adams at Evansville Wrights. got everybody down there playing the
1-2-2, yep.
1-2-2, and and that's, you see way more zone when you go there than you see man-to-man, and that's different from what we typically see.
Yep. Well, we talk about the week that was, and only one game last week. It was a 49-43 defeat at the hands of a really good South Knox team, and South Knox, I would say one of the bigger teams in the area. 6'7", 6'6", 6'5", 6'4". I mean, so we've had a nice run of size at Barr-Reeve, in the last few years, and now South Knox, it seems like that size advantage has kind of went across the river into Knox County.
Yeah. We hope it comes back this way soon.
Yeah.
But,
me too.
No, and Mike, one of the things I tell people is at the beginning of the year, or even like at the end of this season, when it comes and we start looking at next season, I never say, well, we're probably going to win 18 games or we're going to win 12, or I just don't do that. I do look at the schedule and say, man, this team could be pretty good.
Yeah.
And when I looked at our schedule at the beginning of the year, I thought, man, that game against South Knox in February, that's going to be a bear. That is going to be a really tough one for our kids to get. And I feel like we've improved. There back in December, South Knox wasn't playing very well. First week in January, they weren't playing very well, but man, over the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've really come on. They pounded Evansville North. They were right there, speaking of rights, they were right there with Evansville Rights. I know Joey, talking to him at Linton, he's concerned about South Knox coming to the tournament, especially concerned with them if they shoot it like they did against our zone on Saturday night. But, you look at that game, and after the game, it ends up being a 6-point game. So, I can't fault our kids' effort. I thought it was really good. I thought we played the zone really well. We talked about how we wanted to force them to shoot from the perimeter. Dakota Kamler, who's probably the second or third best player in our conference behind Peyton Bledsoe. He came into the game averaging 15 points a game. Dakota was averaging 16, and Sam Singleton was averaging 13, so 29 points between those guys. And then Kamler ends up with 7, and Singleton ends up with 6. So if you told me that going into the game, I thought we would have had a really good shot. I thought our zone allowed us to be competitive, allowed us to stay in the game and guard those guys, and we just didn't obviously score it enough. But the one thing that we gave up in our zone is when the ball went from the corner back to the top and it got swung to the other side, our wing was really slow on rotating out because we wanted to force them to go corner to corner, play horseshoe basketball and make threes from the corner. We just gave up too many from the slot area up top.
And then, obviously, South Knox getting big contributions from role players that night. But one of the things that I think, let's just go ahead and talk about it, you had a stretch, Northeast Dubois and South Knox, and if you have kids who have been unsure of themselves offensively, like we've had this year with kids stepping up into new roles, I mean, it's not a big secret. I'm not sure there's either a better or a worse game to play at this point of the season because they are going to turn every possession, and I said that to you last week on the radio, rock fight. I mean, it is. It's physical. It's not dirty. It's very, very hard to score and play against.
Yeah, it is. And both those teams, Terry's kids at Dubois and David's kids at South Knox, those two teams are really good defensive teams. And, we struggled offensively. And part of that, a big part of that is because they guard you so well. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes you look at teams in central and northern Indiana and some in the southeastern part of the state, and they're really athletic, but the kids don't guard that way. And so you look at these teams and you say, well, these teams are scoring 60, 70, 80 points up there in Fort Wayne. But you watch possessions, and there's possessions where, there's stretches of the game where there'll be 6 or 7 possessions and nobody guards anybody. That's not the way it is when you play Dubois and South Knox. And so for us to go 1-1 last week, we would love to win 2-0. But for us to go 1-1, that meant that we had to play pretty good defense. And I felt like defensively, our kids did a pretty solid job last week.
Yeah, certainly. And they're, good signs. And let's go ahead and talk about something else. Kimmel Graber goes down with a bad ankle last week, busts an ankle up. And Kendall has emerged into the starting lineup, and I don't think anybody from Viking Nation was saying, oh man, we got to get 20 from Kendall tonight. But losing Kendall took away some of the things that you wanted to do to them defensively, because the one thing that we did do that night is we forced them to turn it over a little bit.
Yeah, we did, and I think Kendall would have helped us even more so in that area. And I think it would have definitely helped us on the defensive rebounds. We gave up way too many offensive rebounds. We gave up 13. And against a team like South Knox, you can't beat them if you give up 13 offensive rebounds. The other thing Kendall would have been able to help us with is making maybe a few threes from the perimeter. But again, Kendall was hurt and was hurt in the first half. Hurt coming into the game and kind of re-aggravated some things there in the first half. And I just made the decision there at halftime. I'm like, it's not worth it. We're not playing for the conference championship. Essentially, we're playing for second place. And I don't want to get one of our key guys who's really been playing well for us, like you said, Mike, really been playing well for us lately. I didn't want to get him hurt anymore. Speaking of Kendall, got to give everybody an injury update. I don't hide anything. We went really slow with Kendall. He was all non-contact stuff Monday and Tuesday, but he practiced tonight, and I thought he moved and practiced really well. So I told Kendall, I said, Friday night is really up to you, and I'd be really surprised if we don't see Kendall in there.
All right. Well, that's the week that was. Barr-Reeve 1-1 last week, knocking off Northeast Dubois 38-29, falling to South Knox 49-43. It's the Josh Thompson Coaches Show every Wednesday, live here at Redbones Grill, brought to you by our title sponsor, Bill Dobson Ford in Washington, where a Dobson deal is a better deal. Well, we're going to take this time out, and when we come back, we'll talk about the week that is. Not only do we have senior night, we've got a game at Southridge on Saturday night, but we've got a fun and a neat event that we want to plug a little bit on Friday night as well. So we'll be back for the Josh Thompson Coaches Show live at Redbones after this timeout.
Shake Broadcasting. You may have noticed our new station vehicle traveling around town. Well, here's the cool part. It's not new. It's wrapped with our station logos and looking sharp thanks to Bill Dobson's Auto Renew and Graphics team. It's amazing. They changed the color of the car without using paint. With a wrap, you're able to be a traveling billboard for your business and completely change the look of that old ride. And the cost is minimal and worth every penny. With the new wrap and window tint, which is also available from the graphics team, we are turning lots of heads in our station vehicle. Get your word out with a logo wrap on your vehicle from the team at Bill Dobson Auto Renew and Graphics. I highly recommend it. Call 812-254-1379. 812-254-1379. And if you are in the market for a new vehicle, well, Bill Dobson Ford right across the street from the graphics team will certainly fit you in your next ride. New or pre-owned, see the selection now at Bill Dobson Ford in downtown Washington. A Dobson deal is a better deal.
Back for segment number 2 of the Josh Thompson Coaches Show, live at Redbones each Wednesday night, where we talk about the week that was, the week that is, try to have a little bit of fun. It just got spicy in here, Coach.
It got spicy, dicey, and Spanish.
Well, I'm glad everything's okay on our end, but no, our favorite senior softball player, who's sometimes a catcher, Emma Davis.
Yeah,
she flashes a little attitude every now and then.
She does. She flashes more than leather. Definitely flashes some attitude.
No, but we'll talk about Emma D here in just a second, as in a more positive light, as we're all jokes aside right here. But we've got a cool thing coming up. Friday night, senior night. Yes. We got Reveille. It's a varsity only contest, and let's talk about the varsity game, and then we're going to go backwards. We'll save the preview.
Okay. Yeah, so varsity game, obviously, Vincent's Reveille plays a lot of zone. Herman Kidd, I think he had 35 against Shoals a couple weeks ago. 35 and 17, 18 rebounds. So he's a force to be reckoned with, and we're going to have to do a good job of keeping the ball out of his hands and keep him off the offensive board. So Evan and Splash and JP will have their hands full there.
Yeah, as Reveille young, and I think Herman, as you mentioned, I think it was 30. I think he scored 37 of 39 or something like that against Shoals.
Yeah, it was a crazy number. I mean, Shoals had a guy or two out that night, but still, I mean, to be able to do that, I don't care who you're playing in high school basketball, to put up those types of numbers is pretty impressive. And I've always been a fan of that kid. Even a couple years ago when he was playing against our 01 team, I thought he played really hard and competed against Kurt and competed against Tyson and some of those other guys that came in off the bench. So, it'll be a good one for us on Friday night. And as you mentioned, senior night, and obviously Carson Boyd, our lone senior. And Carson, we've already talked to him, and the main part of this is him starting on Friday night, just because Carson's worked his tail off. He's been here for 4 years and been an integral part of everything that we've done. And from a leadership standpoint, this hasn't been the easiest year to go through as a senior. And he's the lone senior.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about how you usually don't see that from a Barr-Reeve team. Usually in a typical year there's 4, 5, 6, and we've had years where there's 7 seniors, on the team, and some of those guys don't start. Some of them are role players, and then you'll see sprinkled in a couple juniors and maybe a really, really good sophomore or freshman if it's there. But we just haven't had a typical senior class, and that's obviously not Carson's fault. It's not anybody's fault that's in that grade. It just is what it is. But man, from the very get-go that I've been here, when Carson was an 8th grader, I've just always been really impressed with his work ethic. And like I said, he's done a great job with leadership as far as talking to guys and just keeping their sights set on what's down the road. And he definitely deserves to step in there and start on Friday night. So we're going to give it a go there with Carson. And obviously it helps with figuring out lineups with Kendall being down a little bit with a lame foot, and we'll see if Kendall does play any, but Carson will get a lot of minutes on Friday night.
And then Saturday night we
we don't want to forget our manager, Jay Money.
Oh, Jay Money, yeah.
Jalen Allen,
Yep.
So she does everything from washing towels and putting up uniforms and running errands and copying practice plans for me and delivering silent auction items.
Yeah, she is our media go-to. I don't even know. She's the all everything.
Clean out my email inbox, whatever I need done.
Yeah. So, but no, Jalen and then Carson on Friday night, and then Saturday it's a big one. No other way to put it. And I know this may be blasphemous in Daviess County, but we head to our favorite gym, and no, this is not some. We're not talking about the North Daviess and the sectional situation.
No.
We just love Huntingburg Memorial Gymnasium. It's completely in the round. It's beautiful. You can eat off the floor. I love that place.
Yeah. I was in that sectional for 2 years as a coach at Vincennes Lincoln, and the Hatchet House is what it is, and no disrespect to the Hatchet House. It's one of the iconic gyms in the state of Indiana. But my favorite place to play in that sectional in season games was Memorial Gym. The setup was so much better for the sectional because
well, I think it allows for student participation by everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, because you can put those chair blocks in that corner just off the side of the basket, and you can put all 4 chair blocks where they have equal representation.
Yeah.
You can't do that at Washington, and for me, it just gave a better feel overall. I don't know. Maybe it's the pit-style gym and being so much like Lagodi.
Yeah, and that I just always love the sunken gyms.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody asks me, they say, all the places that you've played, that you've coached, what's your favorite gym? And I know Kirk Gutzko will second me on this. It's Memorial Gym.
Yeah.
And most heartbreaking defeat that I've ever had as a coach was there.
Yeah.
My last year at Lincoln, we lost in double overtime there to Colson Montgomery and Southridge when Colson was a freshman. But man, loved playing the sectional there. That was a lot of fun, and the atmosphere was definitely great. And we've taken some teams here back to Memorial Gym. When Mark was the coach there, played in their little Baird Holiday Classic down there. Don't have fond memories of telling Kurt Holt that he didn't get his injunction.
Yeah, anybody that thinks this is, you've already said the worst loss you've ever had as a coach, sectional championship 2018, double overtime, and maybe the best, most talented player you've ever coached, you had to tell him in the stands of Memorial Gym what the judge had said.
Yeah, back there in the officials' locker room. Yeah, I remember having to pull him back there and tell him that. Difficult conversation, but overall, extremely fond memories of playing in that gym and coaching in that gym, and just love that place and excited about taking our team down there. And Southridge has been a lot like us, where they've had some nights where they've really played well and they've exceeded expectations, and then they've had nights where they didn't play so well. And I know that Coach LaGrange has been upset with them at different times, and they got Tim LaGrange back coaching. He's also their superintendent. For people out there that they're like, I remember that name, Coach LaGrange was the coach at Jasper for like 13 years before he decided to get into administration. And now I always tell people that administrators and coaches are the two craziest groups of people that there are out there. And he's coupling those together. So.
But no, it's going to be a tough contest. And just briefly here, what do we know about Southridge? What do we got to do well?
Well, they're athletic, and when you watch them on film, you're like, man, they don't have a lot of size, but they have a lot of length and athleticism inside. But they're probably the most dangerous perimeter team that we have played in the second half of the year. Even right up there with North Davies, because the Whitehead kid can just go off at any time. He's had games this year where he's made 6 and 7 threes, and that's not just one night.
Yeah.
He's done that 3 or 4 times. So we're going to have to really defend the three-point line very well on Saturday night.
All right, now we always try to have a little bit of fun every week on the Josh Thompson Coaches Show, live at Red Bones every Wednesday. Champions Together.
Yes.
Of all that you brought to Barr-Reeve years ago, including yourself and your family and everything else, running the FCA and just the other little things you do, and your driver's education expertise.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing that you have brought is Champions Together. Tell us about Champions Together.
Well, I don't want to say I brought it because I think I'd be taking a lot away from my daughter. She got really involved with Champions Together, working with the special ed kids with Unified Track. And, one of the things I told Jeff and Aaron when we got that started was, I said, guys, if you've never been to a Unified Track meet, like it's the best. It's the epitome of what athletics should be all about.
Yeah.
And seeing the general ed students interact with the special ed kids, and then those kids to get an opportunity to be on the mountaintop for once, and it's just really cool. And then so JC was very instrumental in getting that going. With Gracie Madison, because she had some friends that she knew at other schools that were involved, and obviously her role on the IHSA board that year, they were really pushing unified sports. So those two kind of put their heads together, and they got that rolling, and we got the unified basketball game going. And so that's just been kind of a staple of what we've tried to do here in the last couple weeks, and we've got 7 or 8 special ed students that are going to step up and hit the court with their partners, a lot of the gen ed partners. It's just a really cool event. Those kids will come in on Friday night. They'll have pizza and drinks and stuff in the cafeteria, and they'll get ready. And then at 6 o'clock, we'll go down there and go through the layup line. And then at 6:15, we'll throw the basketball up, jump ball, and we'll play two 10-minute halves. And those kids, that's something else to watch. So, obviously senior night's a big deal. The varsity basketball game's a big deal.
Well, Champions Together is the best thing on that night.
But the best thing that anybody's going to see all night is going to be that Champions Together game, which warm-up starts at 6 o'clock. And, I've got one of my cadet teachers, Jeremy Cole, who is a great friend of yours and a great friend of mine.
And a great friend of Emma Davis.
Emma Davis.
She is one of the student coaches on Friday night.
Yep, she's going to be there helping and assisting as a coach. Jeremy, but the big one, the Indiana All-Star candidate, I tell everybody, is the guy that I work with on Mondays and Tuesdays, Jackson Wagner.
Yes,
I'm telling you, that guy's got a chance to be special. And a potential Champions Together Indiana All-Star.
Well, it was literally probably the first week back at school from Christmas break, and Jackson got me one morning and pulled me in close, and I forget what the day count was, but he was like, 43 days until my game, or something. And I talked to his mom, Heather, a little bit, and mentioned that he has been practicing and counting down, and it's a wonderful event.
Absolutely,
it's going to make you feel great.
Yeah,
and
can't thank his dad Smash enough, because when you do things like this, you do need community support, and he has went out and got businesses to support these kids and get their shirts together and get us some funds rolling for Unified Track, which the first 2 weeks in May, we'll have a track meet at Vincennes, one at Bedford, and one at Jasper for the Unified kids later on this year.
All right. Closing thoughts this week, Coach?
No, just really fired up about this week. Like I said, Reveille and the Champions game is going to be special on Friday night, and then the opportunity to get to go down and play at Memorial Gym. I'm really excited about this weekend. And like I told you, we've had a pretty good week of practice this point.
Yeah. Coach, we'll catch you on Friday night here at home.
Thanks. The Josh Thompson Coaches Show, live from Red Bones Grill every Wednesday night. The Josh Thompson Coaches Show is brought to you by Red Bones Grill in Montgomery, where the good times roll. Our title sponsor, Bill Dobson Ford in Washington. Come see why a Dobson deal is a better deal.